You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Looks like we're on once again. Welcome to Serious Growth Podcast, where you never know what's going to happen here. But I'll tell you what, today what I want to talk about are just some random thoughts that just occurred to me, as well as some things that I live by. You know, I've talked about the Serious Growth Creed, and there's 6 things that I use as sort of a guide, something that I just live by on a daily basis, because I think it's important to have a creed for the simple reason that it keeps you on the path. And that path, as most of you know who have been involved in bodybuilding and bodybuilding, and in this case serious growth, it's really it's a discipline is what it is. And if you don't have something to keep you on path, life is just full of distractions, man. I mean, it's ongoing. I've talked about this before, and life just keeps coming at us, doesn't it? It doesn't let up. Hell, if anything, it's more stuff comes at us. So how are we supposed to handle that? How are you supposed to stay with your discipline? In this case, we're talking anything related to exercise and nutrition. How do you do that for the long haul? Most people are they're very up and down, inconsistent with their life, actually, because I think you end up seeing it in different areas of their life. One of them is exercise and nutrition. I've seen it all the time. And even with people that are really pretty disciplined, it's and one of the things that it comes to mind as far as a random thought, it's is your excuse bigger than your solution? Is your excuse for not following through, no matter what, bigger than your solution? Look, if you are really serious about sticking with the program, then you need to make sure that you are not constantly letting yourself off the hook and coming up with an excuse. I'm not saying that some of your excuses that you have are not legitimate, because they are. But from my perspective and my mindset, and if you're a serious growther, it doesn't matter what's coming at you. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life. You just have to somehow keep carrying on. I shot a video yesterday. I talked about, how you have to make yourself uncomfortable on a daily basis. Now, look, when things are going smooth for you, beware. Something's going to happen. I'm not being negative. I'm being real. And that's the reality of life. Something's going to happen. So I think it's really important, with that being said, is to make yourself uncomfortable on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be something huge or big, or, it could be nothing more than going on a walk every day. It's anything that makes you uncomfortable, like getting up at a different hour and forcing yourself to do something, even if you don't want to do it. Because the message is, even if you don't want to do it anyway. And you can see how that's relating to, what I'm talking about here with your training and with your nutrition. Just do it anyway. Don't find an excuse, because we all have them, and most of them stink. Just do it anyway. Don't let your excuse be greater than your solution, because if it does, what that's telling me is that you're not really serious about your stated goal. You're not. You just got to keep figuring a way how to keep adjusting to your situation on a regular basis. And you'll find that, look, you're going to fall off the wagon and you're going to fail. That's all part of this, it's not like we just talk about it here and say, look, do it anyway, figure out a way. it doesn't mean that you're not going to fall off the wagon. So get up. Fuck it. Get up. The worst thing that you can do is quit on yourself. Don't worry about failing. You're going to do that. You're human. We all are. You got to slip. So what's most important after you slip is what the next thing that you do is going to be really important as it relates to that you slipped up on. My take is get right back on your path. Okay. Have a short memory. Okay. That is over now. In athletics, that plays a huge role, especially with a sport like baseball, for example. It could be anything, when you screw up. But like in baseball, when you have you're having going into a slump. I mean, just think of it that way. In life, we go into a slump sometimes. So what are you going to do? You got to learn how to keep moving forward. And the only way that you can do that is if you really build a strong foundation. I've talked about it before, that motivation is temporary. We all get at times motivated to do something. We have fire. We're excited. It's that honeymoon phase. But motivation is temporary. Discipline, on the other hand, is forever. That's where you need to have your mindset, is in developing a discipline that is 100% unwavering, for the simple reason that I'm saying that life is going to keep coming at you with distractions, with obstacles.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
So think about that. When you're doing your exercise and your nutrition, never stop getting up and getting back on that horse again. I've talked about what's your internal debate? What are you talking to yourself about on a daily basis? And by the way, I would recommend that, like I am talking to you here, it's kind of like a mirror because I can see myself. I recommend that it's about having tools. I would recommend that you go into the mirror on a daily basis and have a little chat with yourself, a little heart to heart. And it can be about anything. Look, that's a safe place right there, that mirror. Look, you could also do it where you're isolated, where you're by yourself somewhere. I also do that kind of stuff when I'm in my gym at 3:00 in the morning, because I guarantee I'm not going to have anybody bothering me at that hour. So I use that as a way to clear my head, get things, in a space where it's safe. It's safe for me to bring up things that I need to address. That's that internal debate that I'm having. I highly recommend that you do that on a daily basis. Have that debate, because you want to get to a point where, as it relates to going to the gym and following a nutritional program to any length of time, is you want to get to the point where you don't have an internal debate about weight training or nutrition. That's just one thing that you could do to get to that point where, look, I'm not going to have this conversation with myself, whether I'm going to go in or not, because, it happens to all of us. It happened to me just the other day for the first time in a long time. I would have rather been in hell than than to go into the gym and work out, although those are one and the same for me. But the point is, I would have rather done anything that day, but to go into the gym and take in a workout. It's just, but I can tell you this, I already knew, look, I know that you're the truth is you'll still have that thought, that internal debate, but it's very quick. It's like, there's no use in me going into any great length of debate with myself, because I know that I'm just going to go in and do this anyway. And I remember that, it was last week. And what I do is I respond in a completely different way. And I end up having one of my best workouts that I've had in a long time, because I say, I'm just going to just go in there. I'm not going to think about it, or I'm not going to, talk myself out of this. I'm going to just go and do this workout right now. And I'm not going to look back. When you're going through hell, just keep on going. It's kind of like that, what I mean about that. But you see, I have years and years of failing and falling off the wagon. I've been doing it for 40 years now. I'm not saying that something like this, and what I'm saying for you to do, is going to be something easy for you to do. Far from it. None of this is easy. It's hard. So that just means that I'm used to being in an uncomfortable environment. Do I like it? No. So it's an hour out of your life, or 30 minutes, or whatever you're doing. You can't deal with that? Well, if you don't learn how to deal with that, you're going to be on this roller coaster ride where you're always going to be looking for an excuse. You're always going to be blaming somebody else for the reasons why you cannot keep moving forward. Is that the kind of life that you want to live? Well, you might be that person. I mean, the option of giving up or to blame other people, that's always an option for you. What kind of good is that really going to do for you to keep moving forward? Think about that. Okay, life is constantly coming at me. What are you going to give up? Get in the fetal? Do the blame game? How does that really help you? Really? Do you really want to live that? Maybe you do. Think hard and long about that. That's a real dark place. Let's talk about multitasking. This is something that I thought's always been kind of fun. As human beings, I know I've been that person. I've always felt like I'm really accomplishing something when I'm doing more than one thing. But the truth of the matter is that it's a false positive. Based on physiology, it's a false positive. It's a physiological fact that your physiology is remarkable. It's unbelievable, because it can adapt to more than one thing that you put on it. But it's not the most efficient way to go about getting a result. Your body is always, and your physiology will always do a better job when it focuses on one thing. And I know that, there are things we just can't do one thing in our life at a time. I understand that. I don't really care about that. I'm still stating a fact that multitasking is not the most efficient way to create a result, the best result. If you know that, that's okay. So what's the second best thing that you can do? For example, I use the example, actually the person that said this was Julian Michaels, and she's a famous person in the industry, but she was talking about how to develop this training program that gives you aerobic benefits. And I'm thinking, okay, I already know that if you're developing a weight training program that's going to have and develop also cardio benefits, sounds good. And maybe that works for that person. Maybe they don't really care, because based on what I just said, you're going to compromise both of those things. In that scenario, what she was talking about, you'll compromise both the benefits, the overall result in both of those areas. So know that. I mean, I had clients sometimes that would come in when I was doing personal training back in those days, and I was doing a consultation with them. And I said, okay, based on what you're saying, here's the program that you should be using. Like, you shouldn't be doing this kind of cardio because it's going to impact negatively your overall benefits and putting on muscle, for example. And they said, well, but I don't care. I just love running. I said, okay, well, then you understand that. You understand that if you won't make that adjustment, and if you won't for temporary bits of time, when the most important thing is for you to add muscle, that we focus on that. And you can still do cardio, but it's really more, it's just something that you do just to keep your body in check in terms of fat. You're not really focusing on that. Okay. I mean, that's the next best thing, is to do something like that. I mean, most of us that are weight training, we do a little cardio, but there's a difference in how we do our cardio based on our stated goal. And this is what I mean about multitasking. When the stated goal is to add as much muscle as humanly possible, then the emphasis needs to be on the weight training. The cardio that you're doing is secondary. It's 20 to 25 minutes. It's just to keep your body in check. It's just to help your body actually recover a little bit faster, because doing cardio in this case, you always have to have a reason why. Doing cardio in this scenario serves as a very valuable tool for your stated goal, because you're only as good as your recovery. See where I'm going with that? It's a fine line. That doesn't mean I'm just doing one thing. I'm actually using cardio in that sense to help me continue to reach my stated goal of putting on as much muscle as possible. It would be different if I was like, oh, and in the order in which that you're doing cardio. If you're trying to add muscle, if that's your stated goal, your first priority, you do not do cardio before you do your weight training. You do not. I had a guy that reached out to me when I talked about, there's a guy on YouTube. I like the guy. I think he's got great information. Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a doctor at Stanford. I like him. I like his stuff. But he made a comment. This guy, he reached out and said, well, Dr. Huberman said that if you do cardio after your weight training, it actually takes away the results from weight training. Well, I know that's not the truth. I know that. And I know that from firsthand experience being in the trenches, because I've done cardio before weight training. I already know, and I've talked about, I think that the way we gain knowledge in weight training and cardio is in a couple of ways. Is through theory. Like, in theory, this is what should happen if you did this type of exercise for putting on muscle. And then there's practice or application. Those are two the same thing. You're applying one first and focusing on that, or you're either doing it in theory. Like, there's research out there and it says in theory, this is what should happen. Let me tell you something. Theory has very little value to it. It has value, but it has very little value until you actually apply in what your theory is. Where when you're talking about application first, look, you're going to get a pretty immediate result as to whatever routine or whatever regimen that you're on. And again, I want to keep this based on putting on muscle. You're going to get some immediate feedback as to what works and what doesn't. It's not in theory. It's this works. Then you bring theory in and say, okay, we know that this works because we know that, look, if your physiology is going to respond in a very certain way. So we know that it works for those people that are doing theory first. Tell us why. Do you see the difference? Instead of saying, okay, in theory, this should work, and then this is the results that you get. How about getting the results first? And I'll tell you what else doing application before theory does. It doesn't, it keeps you from being hamstrung by information. Sometimes there's just too damn much information out there. and we're constantly trying this thing, thinking, okay, this should work, or sometimes it's just too much information, and it hamstrings you. When you take the road where you're applying something first, it gives you the opportunity to think outside the box, because you know what the stated goal is. Think of it this way. And you know that these tools that you're using inside the gym, they're just tools, the weight training machine and, the free weight, all those things that are in a gym, think of them as just being tools. Don't worry about if you should be doing something based in theory. Just say, okay, my stated goal is to put on as much muscle as possible. These are the tools I have. Let's go experiment, because it's all an experiment. And it's all about documenting something to say, okay, after 21 days, because your body starts hitting a plateau in 21 days, based on that, this is what happened in those 21 days. Do application first and then theory second. Okay. That's about all I have for you today. If you guys that are listening have some questions out there, because I got to tell you something, I really enjoy when I make comments that get people stirred up a little bit and they question, because one of the things I've talked about also before is, and that's part of my creed, my initial creed, is question everything. There's nothing wrong with that. Question me, question anybody that's making a claim, because that's the only way that you're going to really know, besides doing what you're questioning, doing it first, you're in your firsthand experience through application, to find out if it really works for you. So reach out, ask, if you want me to talk about certain things, or things that maybe you've read from doctors or on the internet, and what I'm saying is actually going against the grain. I'm always happy to talk about that. I'm not saying that I'm right on every single thing. I'm just saying that every single thing that I talk about is something that I've done, so I know that it works for me, especially if it stays in my regimen. All right. Okay, guys. Till next time, go get some serious growth.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.